I'm 74 years old. And if you're in your 30s or 40s, I really need you to listen to me for a few minutes. Not because I have all the answers, not because I lived a perfect life, but because there are things that only become clear when you've spent too much time doing what you thought was right. And here's something that might make you uncomfortable. You're making the same mistakes I made right now, today, at this very moment. But the difference between you and me is simple. You still have time to correct your course. I don't. For most of my life, I truly believed I was on the right path. I did what was expected of me. I worked hard. I took care of my responsibilities. I planned for the future. I was functional, productive, reliable. And on the outside, everything looked fine. But inside, there was something I couldn't name back then, a constant feeling of rush, a strange sense that time was passing too quickly, even when the days felt long. If you feel that now, I know exactly. I thought that feeling was normal, that it was part of adult life, that at some point, later, everything would make sense. It didn't. And today, looking back, I can see with perfect clarity the exact moment when I could have changed course and didn't. Before I continue, I want to make something clear. I'm not here to lecture you or tell you how to live. I'm not here to impress anyone. I'm here because I'm running out of time, and because time has taught me things I wish I'd understood when I still had easier choices in front of me. And because, unlike me back then, you're still at exactly the point where you can adjust your course. Think of this as a message from the future you don't want to have. I was just over 40 when this happened. Nothing dramatic, no tragedy, no event that deserved a special name. It was just an ordinary Tuesday, March. One of those gray days when the sky feels too low. I was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, answering work emails, coffee getting cold beside me. My wife, Helen, was standing near the sink, drying a cup with a dish towel that was already drier than the dishes. She was talking about something she wanted to do that weekend. I don't remember exactly what it was. Maybe a short trip to her parents' house, maybe visiting that art exhibition in town, maybe just going out to dinner. Something simple. She was talking, and I heard the sound of her voice, but not the words. I was looking at the screen, at an email about a meeting that had been rescheduled, at numbers in a spreadsheet, at things that honestly didn't matter as much as I thought they did. I answered without looking at her. "Not now, Helen. This week is packed. We'll see about it later." She stopped talking for 2, maybe 3 seconds, and then she just nodded. Okay. And we moved on with life. I went back to the email. She put the cup away in the cupboard. The faucet was dripping. The kitchen clock made that annoying ticking sound I always said I'd fix. At the time, that seemed like nothing. But today, I know that kind of moment repeats itself thousands of times. And that's where life starts taking a shape you didn't consciously choose. I was convinced I was being responsible, that I was doing the right thing for the future, for her, for us, for the family I thought I was building. The problem is, I never stopped to ask, responsible to whom? Right according to which version of success? I thought I was building something. Actually, I was just keeping a machine running. And here's the truth nobody tells you when you're in your 30s or 40s. You're not building a life. You're completing a checklist from someone you don't even know. Society gave you a list. Family gave you expectations. Work gave you goals. And you're executing. like a well-intentioned robot. But at no point did you stop to ask, is this mine? Is this what I want? Or is it just what I thought I should want? If there's one lie that defines your 30s and 40s, it's this. When this phase passes, I'll live with more presence. When work stabilizes, when the bills decrease, when the kids grow up, when I have more time, when I have more money, when I'm less tired. I told myself this story for decades, and here's the hard, honest truth. That phase never passes on its own. It just transforms into another equally busy phase with other equally convincing excuses. You don't wake up one day with an empty schedule and total clarity. You wake up older and more accustomed to postponing. Let me give you a concrete example. When my son David was 7 years old, he'd call me every night before bed. "Dad, will you come read a story?" Every night, without fail. And every night I'd say, "I'm coming, son, just 5 more minutes." But 5 minutes turned into 10. 10 turned into 20. And by the time I finally climbed the stairs, he was already asleep. Book open on his chest, light on. I'd turn off the light, close the book, kiss his forehead, and think, tomorrow I'll read. But tomorrow was always the same as today, until one day he stopped calling me. He was 12. He didn't need bedtime stories anymore. He didn't need me that way anymore. And I didn't even notice when the last time was. There was no warning, no special final call, just silence. And I kept working, kept answering emails, kept saying, "We'll see about it later." That wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern I repeated thousands of times with him, with my daughter Emma, with Helen, with friends who stopped calling because I never had time. I was living on autopilot. My life was made of lists, commitments, and deadlines. I fulfilled everything. And because of that, no one would ever have said I was doing poorly. But no one asked, and neither did I, if I was heading in the right direction. There's a huge difference between being busy and being conscious, between doing a lot and choosing well. I did what came next, not what mattered now, and autopilot is dangerous precisely because of this. It doesn't seem wrong. It seems efficient. It seems responsible. Until the day you realize you've built an entire life without really choosing most of the parts. When was the last time you had a real conversation with your partner? Not about logistics, not about who's picking up what. A real conversation about dreams, about fears, about who you're becoming. If you can't remember, you're doing what I did. When was the last time you played with your kids without looking at your phone? That you really listened to what they were saying instead of just waiting for your turn to talk? If you're thinking, "I'll do that this weekend," you're already late. I was only confronted with this later, when I was already in my 50s, not because of a collapse or illness, but because of a simple question that caught me off guard. It was at a birthday dinner, my birthday. 53 years old. Helen had organized it, some work friends, some neighbors, people I knew but not really. I was on the porch, smoking a cigar someone had given me, when a colleague, Michael, I think, came up to me. He'd been drinking a bit. He was at that stage where people say things that are too true. He looked at me and said, "Can I ask you an honest question?" I shrugged. "Sure. If nothing changes in the next 10 years, if everything continues exactly as it is now, would you be satisfied?" I laughed, tried to deflect. "Philosophy after the third whiskey, Michael?" But he didn't laugh. "Seriously, answer." I tried to answer quickly. opened my mouth to say, yes, of course, or why wouldn't I be? Or any of those automatic responses we give when we don't want to really think. But I couldn't, because for the first time, I realized I was waiting for a change without knowing exactly what. I was waiting for work to get better, waiting to feel less tired, waiting for somehow everything to make sense. But I wasn't doing anything to make it happen. I was just waiting. And this is more common than it seems. Many people aren't unhappy. They're just disconnected from their own lives. They don't hate where they are. They just don't know why they're there. That's when something broke in me, not dramatically. There was no crying or sudden revelation. It was more like slowly waking from a dream and realizing you're late. I looked through the porch window. Helen was in the living room laughing at something someone had said. She looked beautiful. But when was the last time I'd really looked at her? Not like this in passing, but looked, seen, noticed. David was sitting on the couch, on his phone, 16 years old, almost a man. And I barely knew this man. I knew the 7-year-old boy who asked for stories, but this one, I'd lost him. Emma was in the kitchen helping cut the cake. 13 years old. She didn't show me her drawings anymore, didn't tell me about school anymore, because I never had time to really listen. And there, on that porch, smoking a cigar I didn't even want, I realized I had built a life that was admirable on the outside and empty on the inside. I had a big house, a good car, a healthy bank account, a respectable job. But I didn't have real memories. I didn't have deep connections. I didn't have moments that, if I closed my eyes, would make my heart squeeze from how good they were. I had achievements, but I didn't have a life. For years, I set goals, like everyone else. Career goals, financial goals, productivity goals. When I was in my early 30s, my goal was to become a manager. I did it. At 37, then the goal became director. I did it. At 42, then it was vice president. Then it was a 6-figure salary. Then it was the bigger house. Then it was comfortable retirement. And sometimes I reached those goals. But something curious always happened. The satisfaction was short-lived. A week, maybe 2. Soon another goal appeared, another number, another target, because goals change, but identity remains. I never stopped to question who I was becoming while pursuing all that. I just assumed external success would solve that part. It doesn't. When you build a life based only on goals, you risk waking up one day with everything you wanted and not knowing who you are without it. I retired at 68, not because I wanted to, because the company was restructuring. They offered me a package, I accepted, and suddenly I was no longer VP, no longer the guy from the important meetings, no longer anything. I was just a guy. In the first months, I'd wake up at 6 in the morning out of habit, have coffee, and then nothing, nowhere to go, no emails to answer, no goals to hit. I tried to keep busy. Golf, lots of golf. But golf is boring when you're playing alone because you never maintained real friendships. I tried learning to play guitar, bought one, had 3 lessons, quit, because I no longer knew how to be a beginner at anything. I'd spent 40 years being the expert, the guy who knew, and suddenly being bad at something was unbearable. Helen suggested we travel. "We have time now," she said. So we traveled. Europe, Asia, South America. We took pictures in front of monuments. We ate at expensive restaurants. We marked places on a map. But we were tourists in our own relationship. Two strangers with the same last name, walking side by side in silence, looking at the same things but seeing different worlds. Because I'd never built intimacy. I'd built logistics. I knew her schedule, knew her food preferences, knew her shoe size. But I didn't know her fears, her dreams, what made her feel alive, and she didn't know mine. The real turning point wasn't when I achieved something new. It was when I asked, what kind of person am I training myself to be? Because every daily choice is a vote, a silent vote for the identity you're reinforcing. Every time I said, we'll see about it later, I was voting to be the kind of person who postpones. Every time I chose the email instead of the conversation, I was voting to be the kind of absent person. Every time I prioritized the goal instead of the moment, I was voting to be the kind of person who reaches the end of life with achievements and without memories. And the votes accumulate until one day you simply are that person. You're voting now, at this very moment, with every choice, with every later, with every distraction. What kind of person are you becoming? Here's something nobody tells you clearly. Time doesn't disappear all at once. It drips away. It drips while you say, not this week, while you answer messages without listening to who's beside you, while you postpone important conversations, while you live in later mode. And one day, you realize the years passed faster than the days. At 74, I don't regret big things that went wrong. I regret what was too small to seem urgent at the time. Conversations I didn't have, moments when I was physically present but truly absent, automatic choices that became permanent. Let me be more specific. I regret not going to Emma's piano recital. She was 9. She'd practiced for weeks. She was nervous, asked me to come. I said I had an important meeting. She said, "It's okay, Dad." But it wasn't okay. She never invited me to anything again. I regret not calling my father more often. He died when I was 47. And I spend the rest of my life remembering all the calls where I said I'll call back later and never did. I regret not telling Helen she looked beautiful, not on birthdays or special occasions, but on normal Tuesdays, when she didn't expect it, when it would have meant something. I regret not playing ball with David when he was 12, 13, 14, because at 15, he stopped asking, and now he's 38, and we barely talk. It's not the big mistakes that haunt me. It's the 1,000 small no's, the 1,000 small laters, the 1,000 small moments where I chose to be somewhere else, do something else, be someone else. And now, at 74, I wake up every day with the same feeling. I wasted the most precious thing I had. Not money, not time, but presence. I was there, physically, but never really there. And you can't get that back, can't buy it back, can't negotiate, can't compensate. When moments pass, they pass, and all that's left are the choices you made and the ones you didn't. Now, something important. This isn't a pessimistic message. On the contrary, there's something powerful about this phase of life, if you're willing to see it. Midlife isn't the beginning of the end. It's the moment when you finally have enough experience to understand what matters. But only if you stop repeating the same pattern, expecting different results. You're not out of time. You're out of awareness. And that can change today, not with a revolution, but with small intentional decisions. If I could go back to my 30s or 40s, I wouldn't say, work less, or quit everything, or take more risks. I'd say something simpler and harder. Stop living as if you're just preparing for life. Life doesn't begin after this project, or after this phase, or after this plan. It's happening now while you're preparing. And what you repeat now, you become. So here's what I ask of you. Today, choose one thing to do consciously. One conversation, one decision, one small but real change. Turn off your phone during dinner. Don't put it on silent. Turn it off. Ask your partner, how are you really? And then, listen, really, without preparing your response, without thinking about what you'll say next. Just listen. Play with your kids, even if you're tired, even if you have work, especially if you have work, because one day they'll stop asking, and you'll give anything for them to ask one more time. Call that friend you haven't talked to in months. Don't text. Call and say, I was thinking about you. Not because you should, but because you want to be someone who chooses, not just reacts. You don't need to change everything. You just need to stop waiting. Because here's the final truth. You think you have decades, but decades are made of days, and days are made of choices. And every choice you make now is building the life you'll look back on 30 years from now. I look back and see a life full of achievements and empty of moments. You can still choose differently. I'm 74 years old. I don't regret everything, but I learned that the biggest waste isn't making mistakes. It's postponing your own life. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it now. Leave a comment and tell me, what part of your life do you feel you're living on autopilot? I still have a few things to say while I can. And if you want to continue this conversation, I'll be here. Thank you for listening.